Main Zoom scene. Hi, looks like we're live. So welcome to another episode of our scalable multiplayer game. Can't forget that. Scalable multiplayer game design stream. My name is Eric Jacobs. I am joined today by Jared Sprague and Roddy Kiley.
Yes, usually.
Pronunciation for the win. So yeah, what has been going on since the last time we were here? So we have done a little bit, or by we I mean Roddy. Roddy's done a little bit of work on the game server. For those of you who might be new to this particular show, we have sort of a game server, game client design that uses ActiveMQ for messaging between the client and the server. And the ultimate goal is to make all this stuff run on Kubernetes, specifically OpenShift, and be super scalable. And so from a game design concept, and if either of you guys can put links in the Twitch chat, I guess I could dig them up while we're doing this. From a game design concept, the game is called Space Ring Things. And so there are these sort of concentric rings, and you are a little tiny spaceship to start. And as you defeat other players, you pick up stuff which makes you heavier, which pulls you towards the center. And so it's kind of battle royale-ish, roguelike, space invaders, star control, all these kinds of games mashed together. So clearly nothing new or inventive, just, you know, old tropes put together in a different way. So all that being said, Mr. Roddy, you have been a busy beaver with respect to the game server and some changes there. I think you added some bullet shooting stuff and some other things. So maybe you want to share some screen and do some code.
Sure. Just give me a quick sec here until I find the right window to share and
so
the
many
client
windows.
to share it. So many windows.
So many windows.
So yeah, so I had missed the last session. And so when I got back to doing it this time, as Eric mentioned, I looked at the bullet code. So looking back to how the server was originally set up, it was originally set to be what was called a dual stick shooter, meaning your left stick moves you around and your right stick shoots stuff like bullets or missiles or whatever. But the end goal, of course, is to have a more point and click interface where it's kind of like Star Control-ish. And your ships kind of have some size and some mass, and they take a little bit of time to move, and they shoot some missiles off and that kind of thing. So getting back to how it's originally set up, as you might recall, we have a backend server written in C++. We switched it over from the legacy CMS client, which was based on the OpenWire wire level format, but with a JMS specification from Javaland, to a more modern messaging protocol called AMQP, which is Advanced Messaging Protocol. And it also is an ISO standard. So when we switched over there, we still kept the same data format basically being sent across. So inside of our messages, we have basically a payload in each packet. And so the payload is in protobuf format. And so we have this .proto file, if you're familiar with protocol buffers, which was originally created by and still maintained by Google, which is a great format, that basically takes like an X and Y for one stick and X and Y for another. Both are sets of floats. So previously you might have seen where we brought up the server, we brought up the client, and you can see a little ship move across the screen. And Eric had put in some rotation code. So instead of, strictly moving up, down, left, right, we kind of could rotate at the ship, and we had a thrust on the rear and that kind of stuff. So that, when it comes to the point when we get the point and click interfacey stuff implemented, when you click, basically, there'll be a calculation like, hey, how do I get from point A to point B? What's the appropriate rotation and thrust and all that kind of stuff. So what we really want is bullets to go flying. And I started down that road. And so looking on the client here, I'm just going to find my Zoom, which has disappeared once again. And I'm going to share my screen for WebStorm, which is the one that I'm using actually to edit the client side work. It's a JetBrains client based on originally on their IntelliJ interface. All right, so in a second, we should see some package.json, what's doing WebStorm, a few other things. And I'm just going to do a quick look for, let it would help if I push the F for find. Send, move, and shoot. So originally we had something very simple called, oh, you can't
what?
see my find window, can you?
No, we still
No.
see package JSON.
Okay, just give me a second. I'll go to the right place here.
Man, you guys and your fancy multiple screens and share,
Yeah, I
just
know.
like I work on one screen and I
It's
share
too
my whole
simple,
desktop and
too
I
simple.
never have problems.
Where would you ever get a break to fix problems? All right, so like we said, we basically have, so if we scroll up here, I think it's very similar. Above, we had something really simple. We have keyboard input. It's of type 2, and that's the packet type. It takes a raw input command buffer, and basically that has a command type 1. We're sending along the UUID for the player because, of course, we want the input coming from a certain client to be associated with a certain ship, which is a certain player. And part of that UUID now, Eric has displaying in the web client so that we kind of identify one from the other. And so the real thing here is at the end of the day, we have these data structures, which are essentially vectors of floats. And so PB in this case means protocol buffer, V2 for vector. One set of X and Y is for move, one set of X and Y is for shoot. So up until just recently, we simply were putting in 0, 0 for shoot. So really, it's not much of an extension. We have X1 and Y1 for shoot. We have X0 and Y0 for move. And then the question is, well, then, okay, how do we get some input and some values into those? And so then if we do a quick search for 1 second here, sorry about this once again. I believe it's in the main scene here. And I think we scroll up and so looking at our updates, so each tick, we do an update basically every frame. And we have some stuff here to check for destruction. We have some stuff here to make sure the body exists. And if so, then to do the rotation stuff that we just discussed to set the angle and the rotation. And then as well, we have some stuff down here to actually set the position of the player sprite, and we're linearly interpolating so that it doesn't jump because we're using TCP packets. And there might be some latency, and it may be going from like here to here, but we want it to be smooth over the course of time from when updates are coming in from the server. And so really the only extra bit of magic here is that we have X0 and X1 instead of just X and Y. So in the beginning, we use the cursors, which is like your little arrow keys on the keyboard. To check the keyboard, is the left down, is the right down, is the up down, is the down down, and associate your appropriate 1 to -1 or I guess in each direction, right? So one of the things actually myself and Char were talking about before the session began was that like we're doing like an absolute value thing here, like 1 is true or -1 is also true and 0 is false, right? Either it's up or down, there's nothing in between. So even though this is the case, the setup of the message format in the proto file is actually floats, so that basically if you had 2 sticks, you're not always necessarily thumb off or like maximum this way. Sometimes you're in between, sometimes you're kind of up to the corner. And so the format that's in place to go from the client to the server can handle all that, even though we're not using it quite yet. And it's something that Jared was talking about earlier, putting the point and click in place and making this a bit of a more smooth type of control mechanism. So getting back to what we added in this case, we simply added WASD keyboard control for shooting. And basically it's exactly the same. We just did 1 -1 in the X and Y direction. And then of course we're throttling it because we basically aren't really going to be sending all the updates that come from your keyboard because, your client might be reading keyboard inputs at, I don't know, 100 times a second, say if it's 100 hertz, if you had a really fast machine, a really fast browser, good keyboard, all that kind of stuff that's wired. But in actual fact, we may only be sending this to the server and getting responses back. We may be simulating at say 60 frames per second or 60 times a second. So sending it 100 times is a bit extra. So we throttle it at this point in time. So really from the client side, there really wasn't much update required to get the input side to go to the server. So like I was saying earlier to Eric, I think it was that in the switch from our original dual stick control scheme to the scheme where we have rotation and we have thrust, we've changed some of the way that the bodies are moved to be not always physically simulated. So at the moment when we actually run this code, the packet is built correctly, it goes over to the server, it gets processed correctly. We can watch the data structures. We can see a bullet data structure being created. We can see a physics, like a collision structure being created in the physics simulation, because the original concept of the way this was done was that everything was going to be physically simulated. So if you fired a missile from your ship, there'd be a little bit of pushback on your ship, and that would be simulated. So at the moment, what happens in the client here, I don't know how quickly I can bring this up here. When a bullet is shot, weird things happen. So the ships don't quite move as you might expect. So I'm just going to see what I currently have running, because I was doing some debugging earlier. And I don't know if my server and client are all running together. And the answer is, I don't have my server running. So what I'll do for the moment, I'll hand over the chart to pick up. Are you okay with picking up?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't have-
we can watch you get your server running, Roddy.
Okay.
I don't have a
think
server
spending
running
minute
either.
or
Okay,
two
no,
is
it'll
gonna
only take me
kill
a
us.
minute to get it up running here.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna need to do that too.
let's play the window juggle and see where the right window is. All right, so that one, this one. Oh, not this one.
Double.
Too many windows. Topology. So the game server is indeed up, and the culprit was the client was up. So we were just changing some stuff with branches and stuff just before the session. And I was testing. So to back up another little bit to what we were doing here with the server, I'm just going to share my screen once again, a different screen this time around, as soon as I can find my Zoom window to do so. Share screen. This one. So one of the things, obviously, that's a goal here is to make sure all this stuff runs on OpenShift, right? So we'd containerize the server, and I think we may have had it roughly running on OpenShift a while ago. So just recently, I started running code-ready containers on a more beefy workstation class machine. I don't know, for anybody who's not familiar with code-ready containers, it's like an OpenShift developer sandbox, not our sandbox from a Red Hat point of view, but with regards to a local development environment, you should be able to run on your own hardware to relatively quickly build stuff for Kubernetes and OpenShift. You know, build a container image, push it into its registry, create a project, deploy it, that kind of stuff. Sometimes that can be a bit of a lengthy process if you're in a bigger organization and your OpenShift cluster might be located far from where you're actually working. And sometimes that's a bit slow. Code-ready containers can make that a lot quicker. My previous experience in running it on my local laptop, which was I wouldn't say it was a low-end machine, but it wasn't a workstation class machine, wasn't really great because the whole machine had 16 gigs of RAM and 6 cores. And now it's on a workstation with 256 gigs of RAM and 16 cores, of which I could easily dedicate, 8 cores and 64 gigs to just the code-ready containers. And in that type of scenario, the development experience has been really, really good. It's been really quick, very responsive. And as we can see here from the screenshot, myself and Eric a couple of days ago went through to get my development environment up and running on this new machine. So we've got the Amq Broker Operator up and running. That's obviously close to my heart because I work on it relatively all the time. We have an instance of the broker itself, which is the messaging component that basically has like a two-way channel where it talks to the server and it takes ownership of the messages as they come in, make sure they're persistent to disk if required. And then it has a separate relationship with the client where it makes sure that the client then receives the message, right? Because that's what it is to kind of be a broker. It's kind of a bit of a middleman. Then we have Cloak, which I haven't integrated with my setup yet, but has been integrated, for example, in with the lobby. And then we have the SSO operator. And now, of course, we have the SRT game server, right? So let's just pop it open here in another tab. I sure hope you can see the secondary tab without me resharing. What's the results? Survey says. I think it came up. All
I'm
right.
seeing your console for CRC.
Okay, I think in the live Twitch window, we should be able to see it. I believe is the case, right?
Yeah, it'll get
Yeah.
there.
It takes a little while. So what we can see here is that the SRT game server has been deployed in OpenShift via a deployment YAML. And basically we point the URI to the broker that's deployed here and the port directly using the service as defined and backed by the DNS within OpenShift. So all of this stuff should be up running okay. And then the client that I'm running will actually be running externally and accessing the game server running on OpenShift through what is now called OpenShift Ingress, which still runs what they call the OpenShift router, which internally is a HA proxy process, which is most comfortable dealing with HTTP. But as the client runs in the browser, it can talk WebSocket essentially natively, which is an upgrade, quote unquote, from HTTP. So we should be able to take a look and ensure that our route is okay. When we look here, we have a route called SRT Broker AMQP, and it exposes itself as SRT Broker AMQP0 service route apps-crc.testing, which is the default essentially cluster domain that your code-ready containers will deploy with. So let's just see what happens here. It's quite possible that in my changes with the branch that I reverted the configuration to point to a different location. So I'll just quickly give that a check. And I am currently pointing at Amazon. I guess that's not going to get me very far. Or in actual fact, it's going to get me much further than my local cluster, but it's not going to work very well. So just give me a second to update the endpoint that's in use. I just have to quickly edit what is now within the SRT web client, the public /javascript/config.js file. All right, just one more second here. And I'm going to enable the debug mode, which in this case means do not use SSO. So I'm not utilizing the SSO integration. All right, so let's restart our server, our SRT web client server, that is, to be specific. And so we see our server eventually come up here. We have our nice little GUI, which we had previously implemented. And I'm going to hit the space on join. And here we go. Basically, we have our little ship. And I use the arrow keys. And I'm going to slow down to almost a stop here. And we can just pop back to the broker. And we should be able to go into the management console and check the connections. And so if we see here, there's 3 connections to the broker. The game server actually utilizes 2 of those. And then the third one here is actually coming in basically from the router. So I think the first 2 here is the game server pod IP. And then this one, 0.1, represents, I guess, its entry point into the local network. And so we look on the AMQP acceptor. Actually, let's look at the addresses. And so we have a command.out that is an anycast, which means that's a point-to-point connection between the game server and the client using a uniquely generated reply ID so that we can speak specifically to that client in the beginning in the case of the security process when you're joining the game. And then as well here, we can look in the, what is a multicast queue, and that means that's a one-to-many. So basically we have one update, that's a game simulation update, and we want to send it out to all the clients. And so we look in here, and let's see if we can find out some attributes here at the moment. Persistent size is large. I'm trying to find out the number of messages here. Acknowledgement attempts, 4,135. Messages acknowledged 4,135 back on this UUID, which represents the game event out. So essentially, you know, what we're witnessing here with regards to this little ship moving around the screen a little bit is indeed, you know, basically because it's the client is sending the input to the broker is connecting it to the server is doing the simulation, and then the reverse is true in that the simulation updates go out to the broker, get multicast out to all the clients. In this case, there's just one, but there could be more than one. So we'll just localhost 8,000. We'll connect in another client here very quickly. Oh, and our other client had timed out and died. Let's connect two more quickly than that. We shouldn't only see one. It's not to say we haven't introduced a bug somewhere. That does happen. Oh, there we go.
Never.
So I guess the original guy sees three, but the new guys doesn't see the first one because
I saw three at some point.
Yeah. So this guy is right. So this guy's having some problems here. So I just shot without actually moving the guy on the bottom, but I'm going to move the guy on the bottom now, and then I'm going to move the guy on the top, right? And these guys can rotate and they can thrust toward each other, and there can be some collisions if we can manage to get them to hit each other, right? Oh, he missed. Oh yeah, so there's a collision. And so we can let those guys go do their thing for a minute. And I'll just come up and I'll just try the shooting with another client here.
Yeah, my guess is if you're shooting and then the client, like the ship is randomly moving, something weird,
There's
like
definitely
some physicsy weird thing is happening.
Okay, so I'm just going to route this guy pointing up, and then I'm going to use W to shoot. Like I said, on the client side, we don't actually have any visual display of the information at this point in time, even though like that object is being created on the server and it's being simulated. So all I did at that point was push W once, and we can see that I started moving to the right, but then I was put back in a fixed position. So I'm not really sure what's going on.
Yeah.
Definitely something that shouldn't be going on
Yeah.
there, I don't think.
I think
Right?
some of this stuff will be fixed when we change the control scheme
Yes.
from keyboard to pointer.
So I'll just go ahead and close the document down here. And so what we should do see is I close each of these guys down here.
Well, so this is where having some debug information would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe Jared, this is where you can.
Yeah, we can do so. The easiest way to debug stuff is just look at the console log. And the client does have a library which give us debug levels for outputting stuff to
I
the
was thinking of
console.
showing the information on the screen because it's hard to see the console log while the ship moved to know that the ship moved to look at the console log. And so we're already showing the player name.
Right.
And we have all the access to all the details about the physics because they're coming in the protobuf. So I was thinking that we would just show on the player when we're in this debug mode in the server, well, the client. And when I say client, it's a Node.js application running in Express, right? We have all the protobuf info, which has all the velocities and speeds and all the other things. So why not just display it next to the player's name?
Well, text, yeah. So I guess we could do that.
You sound like there's a reason not to do that.
Well, doing like text and UI kind of stuff is in phasers. It's one of the things that's kind of harder in phaser to do. Is
But-
It's
but
pretty awful, that's for sure.
I have a
Yeah.
suggestion to avoid the awfulness.
yeah,
So I'm just going to drop in chat here. I'll drop it in chat when Twitch when I can figure out how to get to the right window on the
You
right
could also
machine.
not do it in phaser.
Yes,
we could
because
do
exactly.
it.
It's just a
in
JavaScript
DOM or
canvas,
something.
yeah. So
Yeah.
just like slap a div over in the bottom right-hand corner or something like that.
As a quick start, that'll be good.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, the
there's
console
also-
would be the first step, right? Like, who cares? Because you got to do
Right.
it in
The console would be the
somewhere.
first step. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Like the
Oh, get after it, buddy.
well, we need
I'm
So
here for moral support.
so if the big thing that I'm missing right now is a functioning server locally.
Okay.
Like,
So
I don't
let's
have the setup that
share
that
your
Rodney
screen and
does.
let's get it rolling.
So while you're doing that in the longer term, I think integrating something like IMGUI or Dear IMGUI, I forget how they pronounce it in the beginning. Apparently there's a JavaScript word. I just took a quick look. And
Yeah.
IMGUI is like, it's one of these things that it's a very immediate mode, easy to draw GUI components and stuff.
Mhm.
At least it is in the other languages where I've used it.
Yeah.
And it's integrated, for example, in the Linux Foundation's new Open 3D engine. They use IMGUI on the C++ side as their like, hey, this is the easy, quick, and dirty way to like whip up a debug interface where you can like connect your variable value to like a slider.
Oh,
You just
yeah,
slide
I've
back and
used
forth
I
and
know
it
what you're
comes-
talking about. Yeah, I've used that. That's definitely useful for tweaking stuff. I'm not sure how I've never used it as like a logging tool.
Oh, that's a
log-
fair question.
Yeah. But yeah, for like sliding variables like back and forth in real time and seeing how it affects the client, it's definitely, yeah, it's great for that. Absolutely. And yeah, and like 3JS uses that a lot. And a lot of JavaScript libraries use that a lot in their examples so that you can tweak stuff in real time and see how it looks. We could do that. I don't know what variables we have that we would want to change in real time on the client. But yeah. So I had before we move on to like just diving into client debugging stuff, can I add a couple questions about the shoot stuff that you put in? It looks like you're using a mouse input, like when you click, it will fire. Is that
Nope, keyboard.
It's
So
a keyboard?
basically it's just up and down, left and right up and down, left and right using WAS and D.
Oh, I
keys.
see. Okay,
And then just assigning that just like we're doing with the cursors for the arrow keys.
got it. Do you guys mind if we spend like 5 minutes just talking about design, like step back from the technical details and talk about the design of how we want shooting and movement to work?
So that the answer to that question depends on where we want to end up. So anything you build right now doesn't change anything having to do with shooting or moving, if you will. I think in general, what we want from a shooting perspective, the simplest answer is one like non-directional shooting for now, in the sense that whatever way the ship is pointing is where
Yes.
the pew pew goes.
Yes.
And then eventually when we get mouse control, we could potentially implement like, you know, you're shooting where the cursor is kind of thing, or finger controls, but that's kind of far afield from where we are right now.
Yeah, that was my main point is the shooting there should be a fire button somewhere. It could be the mouse or a button or something if you're on mobile that will shoot just straight ahead, whatever direction the ship is pointing at the time.
Yep.
Cool. All right then. All right, cool. So let me share my screen and I'll see if I can get a local server running. I got the client started, but it can't connect because obviously I don't have a server. So share my screen here. All right, so maybe Roddy, you can tell me what's going on. I used the command that you put in chat before this.
Okay, so where is your server window? By the way, if
Let me-
it looks
let me
like you're
sc-
running
let
at
me-
like 4K
Yeah, I'm gonna expand
resolution
my.
and super
better?
teeny tiny font. Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, so going back to
Now you
my
gotta make
server,
that
and
one
I'll make
bigger.
this bigger. Yeah, I'll make it bigger. There.
Yeah, so it sounds like it can't connect to the broker at 192.168.0.148.
So this is this was the command here. I'll just clear it so you can see.
So it looks like the
so-
server rang correctly.
So this is
Right, but is your broker actually there?
probably not. What
Mm.
am I? So I'm
So
Remind me
sudo
what I need.
podman
This is the server.
inspect.
okay.
So sudo podman ps will show you the broker.
Yeah, and I don't think I have the broker running.
Well, then of course it can't connect.
Yeah. All right. So let me. What do I need to do to start a server locally?
In the instruction in the repo for server, the client, where do we tell you how to run? I don't
In
have
the
any of the repos
README, I
open.
think.
Yeah, but which
for-
readme?
Yeah,
There's like 5
that's
repos.
that's a good question. I'll tell you.
I know
now.
there's one in here.
Okay, so it's not in the web client readme. If I look at the SRT,
There is in the README in SRT game server, it talks about running the broker.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly copy and paste it.
Start the server. So
Too many windows.
yeah, so you want to run the Artemis broker podman
Yeah.
command from the game server readme.
Yes,
That
that
one.
one right there, exactly.
this one.
Although if you're using podman, it should be sudo podman run.
That's right, instead of just plain old Podman.
Instead of Docker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason for sudo for folks playing along on TV, if you run podman as a regular user, you are running quote unquote rootless podman, and it does all kinds of weird namespacey things with very, very, very reduced privileges. That makes the Artemis container extraordinarily unhappy. And also when you run things as a regular user with podman, they run in this funky local network space that doesn't actually have any IP addresses. And so that's part of the reason why the Artemis container gets angry, because it can't tell what its IP address is. When you run it with sudo, you're running as the root user on or with root privileges. And so that changes the behavior of podman. Podman run as root does a real network namespace with real IPs. And so that's why you got a sudo podman run Artemis. Perfect. So at this point, I think there's a command for like inspecting Artemis once it's running. Okay, cool. So your broker's up. See that IP address 1088.03?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you go to your other window, that's definitely, you don't want the whole thing for sure.
Okay. But just the IP
yeah,
itself.
that's for
Yeah.
the browser. That's the actual
Right.
web console.
Yeah. So wherever it was that you were trying to
The
run
front
the
end.
server, if you
Yep.
go to that window.
Yep. I'll go to that. So it's over here. Oh, so the next command is going to be.
Yeah, you don't need
the-
it because you're not going to do the exporty funky thing.
All right. So this is the game server directory that I.
Yeah. So go back to whatever your game server run command was.
Yeah. Okay. It was in chat. Hold on.
Probably in your history.
Yeah. Is it in here? Yeah. This is the one.
And
So
so
this
just change the broker URI to 1088.03.
Broker IP is the one that is running right now.
Yeah, 1088.03.
This one. Is the port 8161?
No.
Just put in
The
the
port-
IP.
Okay.
The port is 5672.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is the standard AMQP port, non-secure.
Cha-cha!
All right, there you go.
Okay. So
It has not exploded.
It has not exploded, so it's connected to the.
So now
broker.
in your game client,
on
You
the
will need to
config,
edit the
yeah.
config file.
Yep.
And change the IP address to 1088.03.
So this is currently going to Amazon, the WebSocket.
That was just happened to be the last place that I
Yeah.
made
So
it
this
work.
should be
1088.03.
1088.03. So the same.
Yep.
Just like
That's
that.
it.
Okay.
And so now you should
All
be
right. So
able
now
to
I can
npm
npm
start.
Yep. And I had it already started. I'm just gonna find where I just wrote it again.
Sorry, I've gotten suddenly coughing fit.
And then here's the.
All right, here we go. Spacebar. WebSocket failed.
We didn't like it. You need the port in there.
Oh, you need the
5672.
Support? Do I need the
yeah, no,
port?
you need the port, right?
Okay.
That's my fault. I apologize.
No problem.
So the reason we need the port
is-
here, when I had first committed those code changes, I was doing it inside an OpenShift cluster running on Amazon. And the easiest way in that cluster just to get a functional route for whatever reason was to just export the service or make a load balancer type service in Kubernetes, which gave me an Amazon ELB. And so that didn't need a port because it was just forwarding to the pod internally. So now we need the port because we're
All right.
talking directly to the broker with no intermediary.
All right. So I updated the
bar.
config to put the port in.
Oh,
Yay.
yeah,
all right.
baby.
There we go.
All right.
Awesome.
All right, console log all the things.
So. All right. All right. We're already console logging some stuff.
Yeah, so we may
As you
want
can
to
see,
change
Yep.
some of those things.
we can add
but-
some things. So it looks like it's logging some messages back and forth with the client.
Yep.
Already. And which is, so we have rotation and movement.
So
keys?
you changed rotation to be the cursor keys, Roddy?
So
The arrow keys.
yeah, I didn't touch what was done with the cursor keys. The cursor keys are the rotation.
Right, so
So
rotation and
left
thrust
and
is
right-
cursor keys,
Left
Yeah,
and right is
okay.
rotation.
and then shoot
forward and
was
backward is
WASD.
thrust. And shoot is
Okay.
WASD. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Okay, so. Oh, I see what you're saying now. Okay, so if I go up arrow, it's gonna.
that will
increase the
apply thrust. Yeah,
Got it. Okay, now I see it working. All right, so let's log some stuff. So what do we want to see? Like, what are some of the things that you were like?
so if
"Man,
you
it'd be great
open the
if we-"
protobuf file,
Okay.
oh god, this is
protobuf.
looking bad. Sorry, I just did something terrible on the back.
Oh, like what's bad? All right, so
Oh boy,
the
that's
protobuf
terrible.
file, the protobuf JS, or
Which one, Roddy? Tell him.
So for the move and shoot X and Y, it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
the dual stick raw input command buffer.proto.
okay, in this one, dual, yeah. So this is the
Yeah, and
So
so
this
that
is
was
just the
essentially the
proto.
code I was looking at earlier, which basically is two floats. There's an X and Y for the move, and there's an X and Y for the shoot, right?
Yeah, and let me increase the text size on here real quick. Editor, font. Let's make it like 20.
And so some of the interesting information about the ship statistics, for example, that might be useful are in the entity game event buffer.proto.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you look in there, down on the bottom is the optional box2d.pb body struct. And so that basically is a proto buffer version of the box2d body within the simulation. So that will give you statistics on like how the simulation thinks it's rotated, where it thinks it is, what its velocity is, forces that are applied to it, that kind of thing.
So it's initialized to just an integer, but
No. So your the entity game event buffer type is an integer. The
Right.
box2d PB body is the fourth field
Part. Oh, I see that. Yeah.
of the
in this.
protobuf. So it is
Right.
it is a box2d PB body called body.
Yeah.
And so let me pull up the client again, because in the client is some code.
So in the client, it seems like the right place to log this because that's gonna be
Yep,
where.
but I just got to
this
tell
thing
you
is.
where it's already processing those messages.
Yeah. So we got
So
entity game event.
in AMQ game client.js, AMQP game client.js in the JavaScripts folder,
Yep. I'm looking at it.
you will see the process entity game event,
Yep. I see that.
and then we are storing the player's body data in the player's array.
Yep. Yep. I see that.
So in your browser, and this is this is the part where like I get lost debugging JavaScript stuff, because I don't know how you can get access to stuff that's buried inside the AMQP game client
Mm-hmm.
in this weird. Whenever you had like changed all the code around to not be in a single file
Yeah.
and started using this's,
Yeah.
and as soon as that happened, I lost all ability to debug in the way that I would
Well, you
expect.
can debug by just setting. I could show you that you can set breakpoints and step into stuff.
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
browser.
No, I know, but I hate breakpoints. I'd much rather be able to just like in the console be like, what's the value of this? Spit it out, and I don't know how to
Yes.
do that. So
Well, then if you want to, yeah, all right. Well, then you just want to add some debug statements so you can just see it right in the
yeah, but then
console.
those like fly by because there's 1,000 of them, and this is in a loop, and so it's like the in between is I would love to just be able to be like food dot body and get the answer, and like
Yeah. So if you want
fun
to
with
do that at
JavaScript.
any time, that like the only way you can do that is if it's in the window scope of the browser. Like,
Right.
So if
I'm
there
not
is
smart.
like so if there's like an object or like a global variable that you really want to just be able to at any time in the console open it up and type something, you just need to
I need to copy it into the global scope. Or
you can just
something.
put it in, you can just say window dot whatever, like, and I wonder, like, actually, let me see what we have already, because I don't know if I've done this for anything yet, but like, I don't think we have the model or anything. Yeah, so like we could take the model and put that in the window. I'm gonna try.
It doesn't matter. I mean, feel free to add debug statements, but you
Well,
may
what
need
would
to
it, so
throttle
you're
them.
saying, yeah, okay, before we get off track, so you would like to be able to inspect this body.
So no, because that's not us. That's every single player that comes in every time we
Right.
get an update. So somewhere there is the draw ourselves
Yep.
thing, or like who we are. And so we
Yep.
just need to only spit it out if the player we're being told about is us. And I
Okay,
don't
so
remember enough in the code about where that actually is.
Yeah, that's yeah, let's figure that out.
Oh, wait, so it's based on UUID, and we know we know what our UUID is because we set
Yeah.
it somewhere.
And I think that there's
It's in the constructor of the AMQP game client is where we set our UUID, which is actually set in the game.
Yeah.
I think earlier. Nope, it's not.
Yeah, I think it is in the preload where
What
you generate the
creates
UUID. Yeah, in
game client.
we generate our player identity in the preload scene right here. It's actually in
Preload
the
scene.
where this UUID is.
There it is.
Generate. It's in the
UUID v4.
preload.
Yeah.
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 It's
So
in the
that
preload scene.
right. So if the UUID of the message is the UUID of the game client,
Mm-hmm.
then
log
spit
it
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be cool to spit out the other player's information, like by
Yeah.
trunking the UUID and showing like this player is this player is that, but that's going to get really chatty.
Yeah.
Because the server is sending messages like constantly.
Yeah.
So you might want to throttle those to be like once a second, once every other second. I don't know. Try something.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do this. So, all right, I'm just taking a quick look here because there's a player. Oh, that's for every single player. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the
right.
phaser stuff where we're actually
Got it.
displaying updating the player's
Yep.
sprites.
Yep. I know that part.
Cool.
So I'm going to. Seems like the best place to put this is probably in the update, but we probably don't need to put it in every single tick. We might want to do it like every
Yeah, once a second maybe. Or
once
every
a
other
second or something like that, and we can do that with the same throttling method that we do with the move. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so in here, I'm gonna, this is updating the position. This is creating, this is when it's getting created for the first time, I think. Yeah, this is creating, this is updating. So let's put it in the update
Roddy,
here.
why did you put that message in the Golang channel?
Oh. I guess that was, because, so on the Linux box, it's through the Gmail interface and not through the chat interface. And so the windows are popping up all the time with the updates. Definitely not the right place to put that
Okay.
one.
I
think I'll delete that one.
was Roddy. I was looking on
Good
my
catch.
phone at my work
Oh, that's
chat,
funny.
and I had been talking about weird Golang things because I'm writing an operator for Blender separately, and Roddy pasted a response to a
Client.
Golang question that was like how to run the broker, and I'm like, what? I don't. This.
All right,
Go
so the
clean it up.
client itself has a UUID, and we have a reference to the client here, so I can actually use that to know when it's a player. So I'm just gonna
When
do
it's
that.
us, you mean?
Yeah, when it's us, when it's the active player, the current player. Equals, let's see, and now we should have a UUID. Oh yeah, this play, because we're iterating over each player's UUID. So
Correct.
because we're iterating above somewhere right
Yeah.
here.
So
for
if
each
the
player.
player has a body, then we iterate over the player's body information. So it should just be player.uuid.
Yeah, player.uuid. So, and this is gonna tell us
And I guess you could just add a log foo kind of thing just to see if it works.
Yeah. Totally. And we actually have a logging library. Let me use that instead. Where is that? Instead of just I'll just do a straight console to start with. And I'll just put their UUID there. And I have an ESLint error, but they fixed it. All right, so let's just refresh the client then.
You got to
Is that
restart
gonna add?
your.
Is that going to add another? Oh, should I restart the server?
Oh, no, you don't. You're right. It
Okay.
should be fine because it's the JavaScript that's being loaded. Looks like you blew something up.
Something happened.
You joined the server, but now you in your JavaScript, it's not actually doing anything.
Yeah, let me. Okay, let me check this. Make sure the servers. Oh, the server crashed. Okay, that's why.
There you go.
So why did
Yeah.
it
So what happens
crash?
is, if the server is running for too long without a client connected, it gets angry and dies.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
So
no
We have to
heartbeat
fix it.
essentially.
It's an issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So just
so-
restart the server.
Yep. So that was why.
Yep.
All right. So let's refresh the client.
You're already.
I can probably just join again.
Well, you're going to end up with two players, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
have
what
to-
happened was, is there were still messages in the broker. So this is actually a benefit to using ActiveMQ and messaging in the client server communication. Because what really happened under the covers is, now we have a bad player experience. It didn't tell us that we couldn't connect to the server. But under the covers, what happened was a message got sent by the client, hey, I'm joining the game. And nobody grabbed the message. So it just sat there and waited. And then Jared refreshed his game client, which sent another unique message. Hi, I'm another new player. I'd like to join the game. When the server came up, it popped both messages off the queue
Yeah,
That's right.
and created two
And processed them.
players.
Yep.
But the old message when Jared just restarted the client, like never got rescinded in any way. So this is both good and bad in the sense that it's cool because like a temporary glitch in the server doesn't completely hose everything and the server can potentially play catch up. The bad news is that we don't have any logic to understand that like this player is an orphan and
Right.
nobody's there to control it. So like you should nuke it pretty quickly.
There are still things that you should take care of.
Yeah. But I do see that it's sending the player update messages.
yeah. So where, let's see, how can we, what's the right steps to get back down to one player?
Restart your server.
Restart the server
So
and-
terminate your client or close the window.
Yep. So it
And
doesn't, so it's
then-
not adding new
Yeah, and
messages.
then
Okay.
restart
Looks
the
like server
server
died. All right,
and
cool.
now rejoin the game.
Got it.
And so the only thing is I don't know if we time the players out, so the data may still be in the broker for when the server comes along.
The server no longer
There we
knows
go.
about existing.
Right, the server doesn't even know the data is still,
Right. So unless there's unpopped join
That's-
messages,
that's right. and it's being-
regular player data
Right.
just doesn't do
Cool.
anything.
So we're back down. Yeah, that makes sense. So we're down to one player. It seems like it's moving around and it's the little UUID hash here matches what's being logged.
Yep.
So
As it should.
yeah, so that worked. It's
So I would
it's
say-
outputting like every single frame. We definitely don't
Right. So
wanna
we
do
want to
that.
throttle that.
Yeah. So
Is
we
there a
can do
way
that
to
easily.
know in Phaser what the current frame is? Does it keep any kind of ticker of how many frames it's displayed?
Oh, I can just use the throttle. Like that's easy to throttle it. And it's just like it's what I do with this one. You basically there's a low dash command called throttle, which
Okay.
will create a new function that will only run a certain number of frames. Like this one's running every 25. No, this one's actually running every 25 milliseconds, I'm pretty sure. I think this is milliseconds as an argument. But
Where's
let-
throttle defined?
let me find it. It's in the Lodash documentation. I can't remember if that the second argument is frames or timing, but I'm pretty sure it's timing. So let me find there it is. Throttle. Wait is number of milliseconds.
There
Okay,
you go.
cool. All right, so let's go ahead
So
and do that.
500 milliseconds is half a second, right?
Yeah,
So I would say we want to throttle 1,000 on the console log.
yeah. So let's go ahead and make a
And you might just
Finding
want to
function.
add the body into that message.
we can do that, yeah. And let
'Cause
me just
that's what we're
create-
looking for, at
yeah,
least
let me
temporarily.
create this. I'll just create it here.
And so the one other thing that I would say, and this may not be possible, so it would be cool if the game knew that the server or the client was in debug mode. Like we should only be sending these crazy debug messages
Yeah.
if the game client's in debug mode. But remember that the game client is loaded by the by Express. So I don't know enough JavaScripty stuff to know how to make that pass through.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at that. Let's get this in and then we'll see if
Yeah.
adding the debug flag to only display this if debug is true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, really, all the
so-
console logging should only be if
Yeah.
debug
So what
means.
we're gonna do is actually we're gonna change this to be and we're gonna put this function just to start. We can pass stuff into it if we need to, but put this here. So now this should run only every 500 milliseconds.
That's still fast.
We can make it every 1 second. Let's do that.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
1,000's probably.
Okay. So that actually Am I gonna have two players if I just refresh the
Yes.
client? Oh, the server
Your
probably
server
crashed. Yeah,
Which is
So-
good because now you're only going to get one player.
yeah. Unless it had stuff queued up in the browser tab, right?
It wouldn't have mattered.
Okay. Okay.
See now
so-
but now you're going to get two players. So restart your server again.
Okay. Now there should be nothing connecting to it at all.
Yeah. So now you should get,
And we open up my debug console. There it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It seems a little bit faster than every second. Oh no,
well,
there's
you're getting other
there's
messages.
other messages coming in, but yeah, it's definitely throttled back a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. So now you want to display some body info about the player.
Yeah. So you should just be able to add player.body.
Okay, so this is, we're gonna have to pass it in.
So maybe modify the log player throttled to take the message that you want to display instead
Mhm.
of having log player throttled generate the message. Or
Sure.
pass in the body as an argument and then process the body in.
Yeah, it might be in. Yeah, I think we probably want to do that in the throttle because then it doesn't have to be doing, any running any code unless it has to. So let's do, actually what I could do is, let me think for a sec. Oh, I know what I could do. We could just, we don't have to save this as a function. We can just do it all in line, like that way it's easier to put in the data that we want. Oh, geez, did it not? Hold on a second. I want to put this down here and get rid of this. And we'll just do this, but we'll just call it as a function at the end. All right, so now we can put whatever we want to in here. So the player, so we get player dot body. We could output the whole player dot body.
It's just an array. So it'll,
Yeah,
JavaScript is
should-
actually nice in the way that
yeah,
it
it should-
formats objects.
should definitely put like a little expand icon, I think. Let's just do this. And then we'll put, because this is just, we have reference to that, right? Player dot body. Let's see what happens. We do that. I'm actually gonna make it a little bit slower.
Yeah, because if you look up, you've got
Yeah.
player body position, player body this, player
Yeah.
body that.
Yep.
So.
So let's see how that works. Oh, my server crashed again. So start it and I'll just refresh the client and, oh, I have a syntax error. What did I break? Probably up here. Oh, right there. Fixed. Okay, there we go. So it's running this every 1.5 seconds. We have all the body data. Is that good?
Yeah, still fast, but it's
Yeah,
good.
We can make it even
And so
slower.
now if so you might want to look at that object and grab some specific data. So probably like the linear velocity. So right now, if you if you hit the up arrow in the client to like start moving your player.
Yeah, let's do that. So it's moving now. And then
And then look at
get the latest here.
Latest, yeah.
We can make it slower. Oh, man.
This
it's so-
is why I didn't want to do it in the console, is because you get,
Well, yeah, it's,
so you still
is-
have no velocity.
Yeah,
Well,
and
no,
it
here
may
we
only
go.
be, oh, there you go.
Oh, there it is,
Here we
I was
130.
gonna
Yeah.
say, I wasn't.
I just had to
if I
expand
was filling
the
that in.
current one.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So yeah, we could build a UI for this. It's just gonna be. Maybe we can put all of these as a variable in that tool that Roddy mentioned, the GUI tool. We could try that, but so is it, but this is good though. Like we're getting some debug info. So that's working. All right, so should we take a look at that? Should we take a look at that little GUI, that JavaScript GUI thing? We could try, let's try getting, and it's gonna be read only, because we obviously, I don't think we can change it, because it's not gonna be sending, it's not gonna be going through Phaser sending commands to the server. Like, if
Right.
we added some of these things like linear velocity, for example,
Like you're
to
only
the,
receiving that essentially, right?
yeah, it would just be read only, but we could see it in the UI changing real time, if you want to try that. Is that what
Yeah,
you
like
guys
that,
want?
it would be good. Well, I mean, I guess right now, I think, I'm not sure if the linear velocity is used. Not to say that it won't be, especially if we're having point and click and we want to see what the rotation is supposed to be and all that kind of stuff, right? Um, certainly the position and the collision recs would be handy, right? It would be handy to know, like we know right now when the two ships come together, for example, the collision rect is not such that it's correct, right? So that graphical display doesn't
What ends up
match.
happening is like, I did some really ugly math and no physics with Box2D and the client to make the ship rotate. Because when we tried to apply rotational thrust and inertia, like it was lots of math and we weren't doing it even remotely right.
Mhm.
And Derek was like, yeah, we'll just find the fun. Like it'd be easier if you just turn the ship. And so I was like, oh, cool. I'll just turn the effing ship. The challenge is that when two bodies collide because they're cigar shaped in Box2D, Box2D is like, oh, I have this weird collision of two cigar shaped objects, which is going to input rotational inertia. But since turning the ship doesn't actually
Turn the body.
apply rotational inertia,
Right.
when
They're out
two
of
bodies
sync.
collide, they start rotating and they never stop because there's no gravity and no friction.
Yeah.
So we have to fix that, which we could do by just constantly setting rotational inertia to 0.
Well, you can also, like each of the bodies have a definition where you can set rotational damping and friction.
Yeah, like we can start. The hack job would just be to always set it to 0 and then, deal with it later. The right thing to do is, to sort of determine what physics we want or make our own physics and then just ignore Box2D's stuff.
But then update it when we've done some of our own things so they can start where we left off.
Yeah.
Right? Because what we do and it does has to be in sync.
So yeah, so you're saying that getting some more debugging information would help with collision?
Right, so-
I mean, so the challenge right now is that we're putting debug information into the console, so it's really hard
All right,
to
well,
follow.
Yeah.
So updating random text in the DOM about ourselves would probably make it easier to follow, because then you can just JavaScript change the
Yeah.
values of
Yeah.
text.
Let's use that tool that Roddy was mentioning. Oh, I think it's called Lil GUI or something like that.
GitHub.com/flyover/
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, I think if you do a search for
/flyover/IMGUI-JS.
Yeah, it's a JavaScript implementation of Dir and GUI.
Oh no. Just I am GUI, right? I am
Yeah.
GUI.
IMGUI-JS.
Oh, dash JS. That's what I
Yeah.
missed up.
It's the JavaScript
There we go.
implementation.
All right, cool. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at how this works, basically. And there's an example. And I've used tools like this before. And I wish Michael was here because he would know right away. Like for example, if you go to the 3JS, a lot of their examples have this UI thing in the top. Let's check. Yeah, here we go. This thing right here where you can like change slider values. These are just all variables that get changed. Is this, I don't think this doesn't look the same, but this is the one that I see people using the most. Is this
I
plugin
mean,
here?
if you have familiarity with this thing and can use it faster than trying to figure out IMGUI, then by all means, use it.
They seem like the same. They serve
Maybe
the
one
same
uses
use
the other
case.
under the
Yeah.
covers. Who knows?
Let me see if I can. Yeah, what is this tool called? Let me. Let me see here. This is, what is this tool? Well, okay. I mean, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically the exact same thing. And this one looks like, well, all right, let's look at the example. So pop-ups, filtering, inputs, navigation. All right. So we can import it. Okay. Into a module. Okay.
Hey, did you know that Jared merged something into master?
I merged that. I
I was
merged
looking
that.
at my email.
Yeah, I merged. There was a pull request I noticed from Derek to add a npm version command.
Did you make your text bigger?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm just familiarizing myself really quick with how this works. So, well, this is not JavaScript. This is, wait, what is it? Oh wow, I've never done anything like that. Is this TypeScript? I think this is TypeScript. Yeah, this is TypeScript.
It does
That's
look like TypeScript, even though
yeah.
the title is -JS.
Yeah,
I guess
that's
it compiles
TypeScript.
to JavaScript. So that's not as useful in that case than a
Yeah.
pure JavaScript implementation if one exists.
Just looking at this, okay. What this is C++ code here.
Yeah, that's where it originated, right?
Right. Just I'm sending a message to Michael really quick.
Yeah, JavaScript bindings using Emscripten and TypeScript.
There's one that mentions
It's
npm.
the very first sentence.
If it's npm, it should be JavaScript, eh?
Not necessarily.
No, other stuff
I think
lives in npm. So
JavaScript plus WebGL example. Oh, that's the running.
I should be able to figure this out. Let's see.
this was last published a month ago. Immediate mode GUI, flexible state handling, and data only shape output. They have a nice little example built.
What is it?
If you look at their code pen, it doesn't look like it's TypeScript. It's just regular JavaScript. Ah, interesting. Okay. So they're like, writing TypeScript inside JavaScript as like text strings, it's really bizarro.
I'm getting, this is the one, so this one on the 3JS examples, this is like the one I'd want to use. Like, cause it's just basic JavaScript.
Like I said, if
Yeah.
this one works better for you,
Go for it.
I
go
just
for it.
need to find the name of the dang library because I can't remember. I just pinged Michael.
What, I mean, isn't that, so 3JS is not the library itself?
No, this is a generic parameter changing widget that can be added to any DOM. And it's used in a lot of places. 3JS is just one of them.
3js.org? I don't
3JS,
understand.
this
is
widget right
here.
here is used and is generic. It's not specific to 3JS. So let me actually have an idea. If I can open up the 3JS source code, I should be able to find this pretty quickly in the examples. All right, so let's just look at well, those are textures, okay.
dat.gui.module?
That sounds like it. That sounds like it. That GUI? I think that's it.
dat.gui.
I think you're right. That's what it is. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it's github.com/.
Yes.
DATAARTS.
Yeah, and it has 5,000 stars. Yeah, I think this is the one.
A lightweight graphical user interface for changing variables in JavaScript.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Eric.
Lightweight
I
is
was
a good
like,
word.
Well, you
yeah,
said view the source, and so I was
Yeah.
looking at the 3JS example, and towards the
Yes.
bottom of the page, it's like view
Yeah.
your source code animation cloth on GitHub, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, let me do that. And then I dug in there, and then I was
Yep.
like, oh, look at the JavaScript that gets loaded.
Yep. Thank you for doing that. That's what I was trying
man.
to do, but being on the spot like kind of makes me.
Sometimes you can't see
Yeah.
the forest for the
Yep.
trees.
That I knew it was something. Yeah. So all right. So now looking at how this works. So install. So we basically we need to add a dependency.
Well, do we? Because remember, we're
It's
not.
a dev dependency, not a prod dependency. So we can add this to our dev dependencies.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. I think it's save dev. Yeah.
But we're not using ES6 or CommonJS because we're not running anything inside Node. Right. The only thing that Node is doing is running Express to handle the Keycloak authentication.
Mhm.
And after that, it's just plain old JavaScript in the browser.
Yeah. It should still work. Like we can use CommonJS or ES6. They both should work.
I don't know what's going to happen in the browser if you try to do a require.
The build transpiles it. Anything ES6 related gets transpiled by Babel in the client.
Ooh, okay.
That's how we're already using. If you look at a lot of some of these things like this export, all of like in the scenes and stuff, I think there may be some places where we do imports already. I think. Yeah, here we go. This is in game.js. We're already doing imports in the ES6 way. And so this should work just exactly the same.
Cool.
Yeah. So, cool. All right, I just need to get the thing installed to start with. Let's just save it. I'm on the game client. Why is it not finding it? That GUI. Am I
Why
not
is what
spelling
not
it right?
finding what? Sorry. I wasn't-
npm is not finding it when I was trying to install it. npm install save dat GUI. All right, so first step, install the npm dependency. And when I do this, okay, I must have spelled something wrong because that worked. Oh, I said data.gui. Okay. All right, so it did install it. Cool. And it should be in our package.json. It's currently in the
Yep. 077.
dependencies. Okay, we'll want to
make the
move that
text
to the
bigger
dev
again?
dependencies. Yep.
I'm like
And
squinting here.
yeah, so we'll want to save that to dev dependencies eventually. But now that we have it installed, let's look at the next step of the example.
Whoa, yeah.
Let's try importing it, and let's see, we need an example.
If you scroll up, click API documentation,
Okay,
and then there's some examples in there.
all right, cool.
Scroll down further.
Yeah, so we got params. Here we go. Creating a new GUI. All right, let's just try a simple example then. Add folder flow field. Okay. Let's just try this. We're gonna need to import it. And I guess we'll see if it just automatically loads it to the
Probably an index.js.
yeah, it could be an index. We could let's try it there. And the import is
On the previous page.
Import star as dat from dat GUI. Okay. Okay. As
It's funny. I find it amusing that you highlighted it, copied it, and then now are typing it.
it didn't work. Yeah, my copy didn't work for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That from dat GUI, and it needs to be in quotes and lowercase.
Don't forget your semicolon.
And now it's just not used yet. So let's go ahead and use it. And the example is,
I don't know that you can put it in the listener though.
this is a good, I mean, it should, let's see, wherever the like canvas is created, we should be able to put it anywhere, like as long as it, so this is the listener. Yeah, we don't want to put it in there. But this is a listener for on page load. And so then it's once the page is loaded. Yeah, actually that might be okay. Let's look at game. Game is gonna,
Now you're in phaser guts.
yeah, yep, I'm in the game creator, game creation. We'll find out the right place to put it, but I'll put it on the on load, that's fine. So the example is just gonna create a new GUI and with a name, my GUI. See if my copy and paste actually works this time. Okay. And we don't want to use lets. I mean vars, we don't want to use vars. All right, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah. You
I'm gonna
should be able to
restart
just
the
refresh
server.
at this point.
Yeah, once I restart my server.
Well, you shouldn't even need the server because it's just
Yeah,
fire
it'll
up the
just
GUI.
be, right, exactly.
Yeah, so whatever the problem is with the server, it's not exactly the same as it was before. It actually dies inside stepping the simulation and it's cloning some data. but it happens after 60 seconds after you join. So it's not the fact that there's no heartbeat, it's that there's something that occurs that shouldn't, some sort of memory problem. So I'm looking into it here now.
Failed to resolve module specifier.
Okay.
Go back to your
Yeah.
import.
Yeah. Let's look at the import. So I think because there's a dot in it. That's
No, well,
interesting.
look at
Yeah.
import game, right? So import game is /game.js,
Oh, yeah.
but where is dat.gui? It doesn't live anywhere relative to this because it's a node module that you installed and we're not running inside Node.js. So you need to modify npm run, go back to the package.json.
Okay.
So we had done some
I mean-
hacky stuff in package.json. So if you look at post install, there's a bash copyrex sh. Scroll down.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah. So open copyrex.sh.
Okay.
So we're actually
Oh, I
copying
see.
the required modules
Got
into
it.
the public JavaScript
Got
folder.
it.
So we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
copy node modules,
Makes
dat,
sense.
whatever.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah,
this
this
will
is
be
super hack job because again, we're not
Yeah.
actually running the game in Node.js. The game
Right.
runs in the browser. We're only
Yeah.
using Node.js for Express to process authentication.
Yeah.
So
that makes
basically,
sense.
like, should I hand you the game client browser code? Yes or no? That's the only thing we're using Express for here.
Yeah,
So
makes
in
sense.
order to get the required, we're using npm and package for like dependency management, but we still have to put the dependencies where they need to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me find the there's a minified version
Up
of
there,
this.
dat.
So there it is.
Right under deep, yeah.
And we have it's gonna be
Source.
under probably or under build. Yeah, this is the one we want. We could probably just maybe we want the module actually. Because the module is what we'll be importing. I'm gonna try that one first and see. So it's gonna be I wonder if I have a way to copy path. Yeah. Source root. There we go. I created a new line for this, so that this is actually going to be node modules slash dat GUI slash build dat GUI module. Okay, let's see. So now we need to run this script.
So now you need to
we need to run
npm
that.
install.
We need to do the post install, right? Which will run
Right,
that
but
script.
post install happens after something. So go back to package.json. My assumption is that post install happens after install.
Yeah, running the reinstall won't do anything. I just want to
Are you sure? Because it's called post install.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Like if you run
Humor
install,
me.
yeah, okay. If you
Could be
run it, sure.
Because otherwise it would
Sorry,
never
just
work based on what you're saying.
No, yeah, it won't. It install won't run that. I don't think.
Bash copyrex.sh.
Is it?
It's right there.
Okay, cool.
I was pretty confident that we did this the right way the first time.
Okay.
So if you look in that folder in your editor, public JavaScript.
Let's go to. Okay. And it's going to be in
Public
dist.
JavaScript,
Is
GUI
it in dist?
module.js. You are looking at the wrong place.
Oh, it puts it in the. It just puts it in the root under JavaScripts.
Yep.
All right, so let's see if that actually. So this module, this should have like a dat.gui export at the end of it. Probably somewhere. Well, let's try it and see if it works. I guess I don't really need to restart
Well,
the server.
wouldn't the you yeah, you're still missing the
Yeah.
I don't think you can
I
use
still need to put the
right, but I don't think
root
you can
path.
use the module because it's looking for a file, but it's worth a try.
Yeah, I guess we could try it just importing it just directly as the file. This is strange. All right, so
Yeah, that's what
all
I
right,
thought.
so we could try the file. Okay,
The GUI's in the upper right-hand corner.
okay, cool. So looks like it worked. Like it
Yay.
added a thing there. Like I wonder if we join the game that it's just gonna be, yeah, so there's nothing in it yet, but it's there.
Right, so
Cool.
looking at the documentation, we need
So
to.
we can add parameters, we can add
Yep.
folders.
Exactly.
So we can add variable values into that, the ones that we want out of the player.
Yeah, I would say we want
Close
our
this.
position and velocity, at least at first.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with just player position as a first step. So we got the API docs up here. Okay. It's out a folder called player. And this has to be, so this GUI actually has to be visible to the rest of the game. So we might have to pass this around inside Phaser. And I think it should work. Let's try just putting it into the preload scene and then see if we can pass it to around to the other scenes so that we can
Sure.
inject values into it at wherever we want in the game. So in the preload, let's create it here.
So this looks super easy.
All right, and so I'm gonna need to move the import wherever I was importing it in the game, I think. Game.
Add.
Or was it in index? It was in index, okay.
GUI dot add.
So let's.
What?
Preload scene. Oh, it looks like Phaser, or it looks like WebStorm did it for me automatically. Cool. Interesting. All right, so
Adds a new controller to the GUI. The type of controller created is inferred from the initial value of object property. Color properties, see add color. The object to be manipulated, the property to be manipulated. Okay, this is super easy.
yeah. All right.
So, yeah, once you get it available in the game.
Yep, that's what I'm working on right now. So let's see. I'm gonna get to this, refresh this. Preload scene. Okay. I need to actually, so this is gonna be loaded from, this is in, I need to get the right path here. So this is gonna be up one. Maybe I need to put the .js on it. Or I could just do it like this. That should actually work too. Let's try refreshing. Okay, cool. All right, so now if I join, it's there. Cool. So now we can start. Now it's
Okay,
I've
so
gotta
in that place where you were doing the console logging
Yeah.
for the player's body,
Yeah. I need to pass it to the next scene.
oh,
I'm gonna have
sorry,
to
you're not,
pass
you're
it.
not there yet.
Yeah, I need to pass it. So we'll just say, and now, and that's gonna go to the menu scene. And then in the menu scene, we'll have to pass it to the next scene. And where does the data? All right, so let me find the where it's coming from. Create. Oh, there's the data. Okay. All right. So to all right. So just the same places where we're passing global variables around in between scenes. I got to do the same thing. So in the menu scene, it must have another section where it will start to the next scene. Oh, here it is. Start. So it passes it here. Now that will go. Now it'll be in the main scene. In the main scene, I need to do the same thing again. And let's add a players folder to it too. I guess I could just put it in here. So in the create, let's set
Okay,
up
so
the GUI.
are you ready to put data into it yet?
Yeah, I just need to add fields. Yeah, I'm ready to start adding fields.
Okay, so go to the place where you were sending the message for our own player.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of console log, what you're gonna do is GUI.add
Okay.
paren.
All right. And I don't want to be, I mean, is this going to create a field and then we update it? Because we probably want to add
So
it
I don't see
before.
anything about updating it. The challenge is we have to sorry. I don't see anything about updating. And so you'll have to find where the player's own body object gets instantiated.
Mhm.
And then I guess that would be where you would add it
Oh,
and the
it'll
various properties.
sounds like it will just keep
So it
updating
won't
it on
even
its
go
own.
here at all, actually.
Right. It'll be able to update it. It'll
Yeah,
update
so
itself.
you can nuke this whole block of this current player
I'll
stuff.
just, yeah, I'll comment it out for now.
So it's actually that what you're looking for, I believe, is going to be in the AMQP game client, not in main scene.
Okay.
That's where the player's body object gets initiated.
Okay, but it also gets created.
No,
I mean, there's the actual phaser object gets created in the main scene.
the
And when you
phaser
add it
object
here.
for the sprite,
Yeah.
if the body's already null, but that's not where we create the body.
But the body will be here. Like it'll
Yeah,
be
but
in here.
look at the code that you're in.
Mhm.
If player body not equal null, which happens very often.
Wait, where player body not equal though? Like
Yeah, scroll up, up, stop, down.
Yeah.
Right there. So this is the initialization inside phaser of the phaser sprite group. It is not the initialization of the player's body object.
Mhm.
So when I say body object, I mean the literal JavaScript object that is body.
Right.
And
So
this code loop happens for every single player every time. And we only care about a GUI for our own player. So
Okay.
you could, in here, if you really wanted to, this is saying if there's no physics group sprite object for the player, create one. So
Mhm.
you could at this point check, does player UUID equal
Yep.
our UUID? And if so, then create the GUI object.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying.
Got it.
That's what I was saying. And I would like to do it in the main scene rather than the client, because I'd like to keep the client concerned with just
Unadulterated.
communicating with the server and nothing.
Yeah, that's fine. So as the last line in this section, I would,
Yeah.
actually, you could probably just grab that code that you commented out
Right.
since it's
Yep,
already.
that's why I commented it out. So yeah, I can do this.
And then put it at the end
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
But there's no
I don't
body.
need this anymore.
Oh no, there is a body. Player
There
body
is a body.
is not null. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, it's not null.
It'll be
So
here.
this is where we want to track the various properties of
Yeah.
the body. Add.
So it's add and then,
So player.body.
okay. It needs a name though, right? Like,
Comma. And
okay.
so then it's the field of the object that you want. But the challenge here is that it's a heavily nested object.
Right. So we can, but we have it open where we're inspecting what was there, right? So
Yeah, but how do you name the property when the property is a nested property?
just with dots probably. Like
Well, but it
multiple
wants a
dots.
string.
Let's look at the we can extract it out into a variable, I guess. And then,
That seems ugly.
all right, well, let me look at the docs then. So
Yeah, the docs aren't super helpful.
yeah,
It just says it's a name of the property to be manipulated. Object is an object to be
person
manipulated.
name.
So you may actually need to add the specific object, which is the nested object. So instead of adding body, you might have to do body dot whatever.
And then, yeah, and then name that. Yeah.
Yeah, so let me look at the game. Nope, main scene. Main scene.
Okay,
So you want body dot position
all right.
and player dot body dot position, and then X.
X for the property.
That's it. Yep, and then
Yeah.
just the same thing again, and then
For
Y.
Yeah.
And let's try this and see if it works.
Okay. Let's try
You
that.
will want to restart your server before you
Yeah.
do anything else. Oop, interesting. Go back to your browser. Okay, it's already, yeah, you just broke it. Now you're gonna have two players.
Oh yeah, that did work. Yeah.
Okay, so put some thrust in
Yeah.
and we should see those numbers change.
I think it might. Oh wait, there we go. It doesn't seem to be updating. It seems like it added it at that time, but it doesn't seem like it's updating it in real
It
time.
is not updating it.
Yeah. But it did add it. So why is it not updating? And is there a,
Probably because that object isn't permanent. That'd be my guess.
like the reference is just making a copy of it and not
Well, if you look
referencing
at
it?
if you look in the code, that player is part of a for each loop.
Yeah, that's true. It is actually, but
So my guess is that because it's part of a for each loop, that particular instance only exists in that one moment, and then the next, in the future, it's gone.
mhm.
So this is
One
why
thing
I
we
was
could
saying we might
probably
have to
do
do
is
it in the
make.
client.
Oh, no, we don't have to do it in the client. But we could make a reference for it in the main scene for the player
Right, but you'd have to do that,
when it's created. We could make a
which is in the client.
no, the create function in the main scene. So we could make a reference here for like this dot current player, and then when it gets created in phaser here, we save it. And then we use this as that, as this.
It's worth a
Player
try.
that way. Yeah. All right. Let's try it. And it could be that the, oh, I probably need to, let me restart server instead.
Okay, don't refresh your browser.
Okay,
There you
it's
go.
back.
So,
All right, so
add
let's
some
try giving
thrust.
some thrust. See if that. It's still not
Not
updating.
updating.
So it's adding it, and it might just be. It's possible that this
Right,
is
but
just
that-
copying.
Yeah,
And-
this object isn't getting updated either. So you're setting this current player equal to player, but player is an ephemeral object that never exists again in the future.
Once you have a reference to it though, it stays.
Right,
like-
but that particular instance of player is a pointer. So think way low level, like assembly level, right? So that instance of player is a pointer to some memory somewhere, and it's never touched again because the next time you go through the loop, you're trying to re-add. So this is the other challenge with doing it here in the main scene is you're running this dot add every time through. And I don't think this is the way GUI is designed to work.
So right. So the array of players in the model, that is not ephemeral. Like that's going to stay all the time.
Right.
And this is an element of that array. It's just pointing to an element in this array.
Okay.
And we're basically taking that and also assigning that to the pointing to that same element. So
Right.
that should still stay like I mean, that should always stay like even if we put like just to prove this out, let's see if this works. If we took this same field and console.logged it out like the way we were doing it before in the update, if it's the current player, and
I
just
wonder if
change
we need
this
to tell the controller to do something.
and let's see if that actually, so just to see if this.
Oh, okay. We're not actually, we never set the controller to listen to changes in the underlying object.
Okay, that makes sense.
I
But
think.
I still want to prove this.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is that's not going to stay, but I think it is.
Right, but so the fact that it's controller related, I think, is the challenge.
All right. So how do we do that then? Let's find out.
I'm looking for examples. Properties are changed. There's no setter. Listen to changes outside of the GUI. Add. So in the add statements, just append a dot listen empty paren.
Okay.
So where you're doing the add of, yeah. So at the very end, right before the semicolon, just dot listen empty paren.
Okay.
I still
try that.
think this is bad because we're doing it multiple times.
Yeah, it'd be great if it could just dynamically show us all the fields of
No,
position.
no, no, no. I'm saying we're doing this.gui.add every time we loop over the player.
Only
that-
when it's created initially. So it's only happening once. This
Oh
is,
yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
yeah.
You're right. You're right. I forgot about that.
All right. So this, I do need to refresh, I think, because I made client changes.
Well, there's no server anymore.
Oh no,
Oh,
okay,
there's a
all right.
server.
So let's see if that helps. Moving. Okay, so
No.
the GUI is not changing, but that reference to the current player is changing. So it's staying like it's sticky, like it's keeping the correct reference and it's updating as it should. As you can see, it's
Oh, you know why it's not changing? Look at the numbers. It finally just hit like 3 something. Did it not update to 3
no.
something?
Oh, I clicked in there and it, wait, what happened? I clicked in there and it changed.
Okay, so then this is probably user error.
So it's changing. So yeah, it's not getting updates for some reason. So like the current player position, body position X, that is dynamically changing every single update. But when we do the add and this listen, it's still just getting the initial value and not updating. So that is the question that we need to solve here.
Refreshes the visual display of a controller to keep in sync with the object's current value.
Yeah, that seems like exactly what we did, what we want.
So no, but hold on, update display. We're not actually calling update display. So listen tells it to listen, but we never told it to update.
So where do we,
Hold on,
is that
I'm looking for an example.
update display? That's what we want.
Manually updating.
Update display controller.
So you want to call, hold on, follow details, update display manually. Still does not work. That server has an error. Refresh that GUI with new values. You have to set the controllers to listen. Oh, it just says the first time I load the model, I have a folder. When I load the new model, name changes.
Does add return a controller to that field? I wonder.
Listen does not work anymore.
Oh, the add does return a controller.
Setting the controller's options.
I think I have an idea. Let me just try something. We're using, okay. Dot listen. You think that would? Returns a controller. And I'll make it listen and I'll make it, and I'll try it running its own update display in each frame. So now we have a reference to the controller that was added for the X position. And then I guess in here, I'll just try this. Server crashed. All right. Well, that didn't seem to work. I added an update display call on the controller in the updated tick, but it's still not updating. It's definitely not getting changes to that object.
Show me the code again.
Yeah. So what I tried was, so add will return the controller that you're creating with
Yeah,
the
I see
GUI.
what you're doing. Yep.
And then later on in the, like, if the player is the current player, I just call update display on the controller.
Yeah,
Which,
no, I understand.
yeah, so that's what I did. But no, that doesn't seem to work. Update display is modified get value, set value. Maybe set value is what we want.
No, it should just be working.
Yeah,
So this brings us back to, is the right object the thing getting updated, or is that GUI
I mean, the same
actually
object is,
tracking the object? Or is the GUI that we're touching when we're buried in main scene actually the GUI that's displaying? Well, it's gotta be because it gets the initial values.
yeah. And this object is getting updated because we're outputting it right there. So it has the right reference. If it's using this, it just seems like it's not. Take out that.
When you declare this, you have declared parameters beforehand. Now you can listen to key events of the appropriate event and change the values in the GUI. Listen has a bug associated with it. If you use drop-down menus, you have to update your controller with. Try running update display on the GUI, not on the controller,
Okay.
on the GUI object.
Yep. The top level, the
Yeah.
same one that has the .add. Yeah. Yeah, I can try that. And I'll put that back in too. Still not working.
Sounds like a Stack Overflow question time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so close. Like it seems like it should be working. We're just missing something. Um,
To recreate the controller for a list of planets, that's not it. Yep, I don't know what to tell you. We're
I
just
don't
kind
know.
of trying the same thing, expecting different results.
Yeah. I will figure this out though. Um, this is, let me see. I'm gonna try calling get value just to see what's there on the controller. So calling get value, it's just the value is there. It's just the same as always. So I'm just gonna try just to see what would happen if I did. Let's try this.
Is there a set value?
Yeah, there's a set value. That's what I was gonna try, just setting the value. Like, it'd be nice if it was dynamic and just listen for changes in the object like the documentation says it does. But let's just see if set value, if we just force it to update, like,
Yeah, it takes
do anything.
an object.
yeah, it's basically the value of that thing because I did get
No,
value.
it takes an object, not a value.
Yeah, I know, but when I call get value, it's just returning the number. So I'm-
I understand, but that's what get value does.
So there's only one parameter it can take. I guess I could just give it the object position. And then it would, let's try that. Because now it's an object. Is my server still running? Nope. Okay, so it's saying it's when I was trying to set value, so now it's not a number, which is not
Okay,
what
that's
we
weird.
want.
It says it wants an object, so I guess you gotta set it as a,
Let's try just doing this and see
Yep.
what happens.
that's annoying that the documentation says it should be
Yeah.
an object.
Yeah, it is annoying. Oh geez, I got 3. All right, well, it
It's not
okay,
erroring.
is working now. It's actually changing it.
Cool. So that sounds like a bug.
It definitely seems to go against what the docs say, where it's like you can listen to changes in the object that you added, but
Yep.
it was not doing that because the object was different than what's actually getting output there.
Like I said, seems like a bug.
Yeah, definitely.
But we're about at time, so this is like perfect timing. Yay, we got it working in the last second.
So what we can do, like to wrap that up, is we can put all of the fields of the body
At least the
in
important
here.
ones.
Yeah, like position, linear velocity, force, angle, the ones that we're, maybe even UUID if we want, and then just have them, then we can just see them changing for the current player up above. And this can be
Yeah,
expanded or
that'd be good
collapsed.
verification that what we
Yeah.
see on the screen actually matches the data,
Yeah,
right?
yep. Yeah.
And so I started looking into the server side problem and I dumped all the frame data for the connection for the AMQP communication going back and forth. And it looks like extremely the same. Like it looks very good right up until the state where it says there's a connection framing error, connection aborted. and then there's a problem because something gets corrupted. So I suspect that it's not a messaging problem per se, and more so a server memory corruption problem where something is getting stomped because the actual call stack indicates that the problem is in the box2D simulation step. So each ticket does the simulation. But right up until that point, the communications are back and forth between the client and the server. No problem. Then all of a sudden, the server says, hey, there's framing error, which you can't tell by looking at the frames of the data on the network. And then the call stack comes up. So it's probably like there's a couple of threads in play there. So one of the threads may be doing something bad memory wise. So I have to dig a little bit further.
Don't forget to turn.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some Y change
Yeah,
here.
it's doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
Cool. So we can just load that out with whatever kind of state variables we want to show.
Sweet. All right.
Excellent.
Well, pull request.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. All right. Well, that's it for today. Thanks everyone for hanging out and for watching us heck around with JavaScript. I think we're off next month, and then maybe we'll be back in November. Maybe.
Sounds
We'll
good.
see.
All right.
So with that, signing off. Have a great
See you, folks.
evening, morning, whatever time it is for you, and we will see you again next time. Cheers.
See ya.